All right, all right, all right. Welcome in Toilets to Titles on the Clock, NFL Draft Show, episode number 13. Tonight we are mock drafting. We are continuing a mock draft that we started last week with Shane Hallam, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. KT at Leverett underscore KT on the Twitter. What's cooking?
Hey, amazing! Happy to be here. I think the first show, um, Mr. Hodgkinson was on. I missed it. I think that's the day my mom got in an accident. I had to go rush and make sure she was okay. I think Moon covered in for me. I think that ended up being one of the longer episodes. So I'm excited to be here for this one.
Long, we don't go long. Well, that was a peek behind the curtains right there. That is our guest, Oliver Hodgkinson at OJ Hodgkinson on the Twitter. Oliver, what is happening?
How's it going, my guys? I'm glad to be back. I'm especially glad to join in this mock draft like midway through because you guys made a great start, an exciting start, an interesting start, and we're gonna continue with that. I think tonight.
Yes. Yes, we are. We're going to continue with that. And Oliver, why don't you tell everybody real quick where they can find your work, what you got? I know you're an analyst for CFN 365, draft analyst for PFN 365, and Joe wanted me to let you know. Joe knows that he loves the draft simulator over on PFN. He's been toying with that. So why don't you tell everybody about your work?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be remiss of me not to point out that that's one of the only remaining free mock draft simulators in the whole of the internet. A few draft simulators behind paywalls, but yeah, profootballnetwork.com, collegefootballnetwork.com. That's the place to find all the college football content. It's kind of my focus now. It's going to be my last draft cycle with a real heavy focus on draft content. It's college football content all the way from here. So collegefootballnetwork.com is where
This
you can
is your
find.
swan song?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'll still dip my toe in the draft sphere, but for the last 2 years, I've been working full time covering the draft for Pro Football Network, and it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, a privilege. Been able to interview some incredible talents over the past 2 years. But the college football is where the heart is, the pageantry of the sport, the passion of the sport. I appreciate it. That's for me. I absolutely love it. That's my bread and butter. So to be able to focus on college players rather than focusing specifically on how they translate to the NFL, just to be able to enjoy not just players, the programs, the traditions. It's just for me I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, we're going to be doing some cool stuff over there at College Football Network.
Hell yeah. You got any plans to come over to the States and check out any live games next season or what?
Well, funnily enough, I saw my first college game last season, but it was over in Ireland. So Nebraska and Northwestern, when they came over to Ireland, it's
an odd place to see your first live college football game.
Quite, yeah. It was, a slightly less of a jump across the pond. It's only a small jump across the pond from here to Ireland, as opposed to getting over to the States. But I'd happily start on the East Coast and work my way over to the West Coast, taking in college football games across the season. That'd be my idea of a great road trip.
And if you do that, T2T, CFB Nation, we will make sure we have people meet up with you along the way, and stop, catch a few games. And then as you continue on, because we have people all across the United States. And I'm sure by the time you get here, we're going to grow even more so. So that would be incredible. Now, did you guys behave like hooligans at that game, or did you behave like, college football fans?
Well, I was there covering the game as a respectable media analyst, so I didn't take part in the. So I don't know if you guys heard or saw all the card machines in the stadium failed. There was an internet outage, so no one could pay by card. They couldn't operate any of the tills, so they basically had to give away the beer for free.
Stop.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so I don't think too many people actually saw much of the game. Northwestern's only victory of the 2022 college football season, because they were all at the bar trying to get free beer.
Now, do you guys do beer snakes?
There was some beer snake going on for sure.
Man, those are impressive. I've seen some very impressive beer snakes. I think that needs to be a staple at live events, in my opinion.
It's okay until the beer glasses, plastic, whatever you want to call them, start getting thrown. I was at an NFL game, covering an NFL game for Pro Football Network, not last year, the year before, where they started just throwing the glasses to try and create a bigger snake, but they were like hitting people from the top row, and that's dangerous, man. But
Very dangerous.
yeah, I don't want to sound like a killjoy. Like everyone was over there.
No. You got a hand.
When you're getting pelted by plastic pint glasses,
that's not a killjoy. That's someone being, responsible. Be responsible with your beer snakes. That's going to be like a T2T slogan.
I like it. You should get it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, speaking of t-shirts, you got a beautiful one. If you want to win one of those t-shirts, go into the Gilded Chat. Reach out to me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps or at Toilets to Titles, and we'll get you in the Gilded Chat. We are mock drafting there a few times a week with George Reed at George Reed FF on the Twitter, and we're doing them on Sleeper. And there's multiple opportunities for you to win some Toilets to Titles swag. Now, KT, I know CFB Nation, Real Ones Productions, super busy. I saw we got another Boomer episode soon. What's the name of the Sooner Showdown? I know it released today. The Sooner Shakedown, that released today. So I know y'all are busy over there. So why don't you talk a little bit about what's going on over there right now?
First and foremost, shout out to Boomer, man. Boomer's been doing his thing. He's averaging just south of 1K views every episode. Nino was doing something around the same thing, if not more, with the Black Shirts breakdown. So it's just been a lot of fun. Spring football season is in the air, so we're about to flood the streets with content. Our spring game tour starts this weekend. I'm in Raleigh this weekend. When do you go to the Army spring game?
April 21st, Friday.
Friday, April 21st. That's when he'll be. Next weekend, I'm in Winston-Salem for the Wake Forest spring game. 22nd, I can't announce just yet where we're going, but where we're going is really big. I just got to get some things confirmed. And then also, I think the Maryland spring game, the 29th, is where I'll be. Nino will be here, there, and everywhere as well. So we'll all be on the road. I think D-Now is going up to Champaign, Illinois for the Fighting Illini spring game as well. So we're on the move, man.
Hell yeah. And speaking of growth and development, Toilets to Titles, we just passed 1,000 subscribers on Twitter. So we are coming up on our third season. May 11th is our third anniversary. So it was a huge milestone for us. So it is super exciting. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Toilets to Titles. Be greatly appreciated if you like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube. Throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you want to play with us, okay, if you want a chance to win some free money and you like NFL drafts, I'm assuming you do if you're listening to this episode, we are doing a mock draft challenge. We're working together with the team at draftcountdown.com. The way you can win this, email us, toiletstotitles@gmail.com, your mock draft, your first round mock draft, okay? Make sure you have to be subscribed to Draft Countdown. You got to be subscribed to Toilets to Titles. And if you do all that, you submit your mock draft to us. The person with the best mock draft, the most accurate mock draft, will win. We're going to put $20 in the pot for every 10 entries, and we're going to cap that at 500. So the more entries we get, the better. So make sure you share the word, okay? But maybe if you want to win, share it with people who aren't as knowledgeable about the draft as you are, right? Because you want to kind of cheat a little bit, get yourself a chance to win. And we're going to cap it at $500. Free entry. Do all that. You'll get in there, all right? And why don't we recap our first 10 picks, all right? We were joined by Shane Hallam of draftcountdown.com. And we performed a mock draft, the first 10 picks last week. So, Oliver, we're going to discuss these first 10 picks so you can get caught up to speed with where we're at. I know we discussed this behind the scenes, and you're familiar with some of these selections, right? But let's discuss it on air. We haven't really got your immediate reaction. So Shane kicked the draft off C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State for the Carolina Panthers, and I pretty much believe that's chalk at this point, okay? And, I mean, Bryce Young or Stroud is chalk, all right? It's one or the other. And then Houston Texans going Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama. And then that was with KT. And then Shane with the Arizona Cardinals took Tyree Wilson, the edge from Texas Tech. So what are your thoughts on that selection?
Yeah, it's a selection that's gaining some traction if you follow some of the national draft analysts. I think Lance Zierlein this week had kind of said, what if the Texans take Tyree Wilson at 2? This is a kid who is gaining Trayvon Walker-esque traction as a riser at this stage with, less than 3 weeks now to the NFL draft. He's long, he's athletic, he's powerful, a similar kind of athletic profile or draft profile as Trayvon Walker, maybe not to quite the same degree, but Tyree Wilson really is a guy that it feels like he's making a late boom up draft boards to be potentially the first edge off the board. And you know, the Arizona Cardinals, if you look at their defense, if you look at what they like to do on defense, if you look at what they're replacing on defense, Tyree Wilson almost fits the mold of their defense better than Will Anderson, who is, for many people, the consensus number 1 or number 2 player in this class. Mm-hmm. Tyree Wilson kind of fits that defense better. And we talked about fit just before we came on air, talking about some of the other picks in this mock draft and some of the potential picks in the draft itself, when, you know, the Indianapolis Colts, for example, are on the clock at 4. You know, sometimes that fit for the defensive scheme will be a difference maker when the actual pick goes on the board. So it's certainly an interesting pick. Certainly one that I don't think, you know, even towards the end of the college football season, that many people would have suspected that Will Anderson wouldn't even be the first edge off the board. Man. But it feels like something that could potentially happen, something that is potentially gaining traction as a possibility, with just 3 weeks until the Cardinals are actually on the clock.
And that's why I went with Will Anderson at 4. And we kind of discussed this before the show, and you had mentioned you don't think the Colts can leave the draft without a quarterback. You had mentioned Anthony Richardson being your guy. And why don't you get into that real quick?
Yeah, I feel like Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts are almost a match made in heaven at this point, in terms of Richardson is, for me, the quarterback. When you look at, certainly with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young already off the table, if you look at what Anthony Richardson brings to the field, if you look at how the offense in Philadelphia is run under Shane Steichen, you look at what he likes to do with his offense, Anthony Richardson is the guy that can deliver those deep downfield shots that Shane Steichen likes to deal up. He's the guy with the athleticism and the creative mobility to operate that offense in the same style that Jalen Hurts did for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the fit makes sense. I completely agree that the Indianapolis Colts need an edge player. They have done for a number of years. It's clearly a need. I just feel like at this point, you look at the Colts roster, who's going to quarterback that offense if they don't take someone in this draft class. I think it's a desperation. I think you listen to all the noises out of the Indianapolis Colts through the NFL Combine, through pro days. Whenever you hear the Colts talking with the media about this 2023 NFL draft class, it's very much geared up to taking a quarterback with that 4th overall pick.
I think if it's that obvious, the Cardinals are trading now. Someone's going to trade in front of the Colts. Colts aren't going to get their guy at 4. I just don't see it happening. The Cardinals are going to move out. They're going to get something. Somebody's going to move up, and they're going to get their guy. Right? And it could be the Falcons.
It could be any number of teams. You look at this. I said this on our College Chaps podcast a few weeks ago. You look at the number of NFL teams that legitimately need a quarterback over the next 3 weeks when the NFL draft starts. Like, there's a lot of NFL teams that really aren't completely 100% set at the quarterback position. So there's plenty of room for maneuver. I think this NFL draft has got the potential to be absolutely chaotic.
I cannot wait.
I cannot wait either. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons, though, because there is so many teams that need a quarterback, and it's a quarterback-driven league.
Yeah.
Will we see a repeat of what happened last year, where quarterbacks actually fall a lot further than we thought? There's just so many variables at play.
This guy.
I don't think you get a 3rd round pick from Mac Jones at this moment in time, let alone 3rd overall.
Well, all right, let's kind of speed through the rest of these selections. All right, Shane took Jalen Carter for the Seahawks at 5. I took Lucas Finesse for the Detroit Lions at 6. Shane took Christian Gonzalez for the Raiders at 7. KT took Will Levis for the Falcons at 8. Shane took Broderick Jones for the Bears at 9. And then KT took Devon Witherspoon for the Philadelphia Eagles at 10. Was there one other selection in there that you kind of, were interested in, or you want to chime in on before we continue this draft?
Yeah, for me, it was the selection of Broderick Jones by the Bears over Paris Johnson Jr. That really caught my eye. Once you go past the fact that Anthony Richardson hadn't been selected in the first 10 picks, it was the Broderick Jones over Paris Johnson Jr. for me, and I'll get into why that pick made me sit up and take notice when I get on the clock at 11.
All right. Well, you are on the clock. The Tennessee Titans for pick number 11.
So with the 11th overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University. So this, for me, I looked at it and I was a complete head scratcher because I don't think there's an offensive tackle in this class that even comes close to Paris Johnson Jr. in terms of where he is now as an offensive tackle and where he's going to be as an offensive tackle. You look at this kid, he is 6'6", 313, 36 and an eighth inch arms. He is a build in a lab offensive tackle size and frame for the NFL level. Like they don't build him like Paris Johnson Jr. in a lab. He's an incredible specimen to look at. He's an incredible athlete in terms of what he brings to the table in the run game. Like you could see it when he played guard for Ohio State before he transitioned to offensive tackle this year for the Buckeyes. There's not a block that kid can't make because of his length, because of his athleticism. There is incredible violence in his hands when you watch him strike an opponent. He can quite comfortably knock an opponent down. Now, there's some question marks over his lower body strength and over his anchor. You watched Lucas Van Ness, who you picked for the Lions at 6 overall. You watched him really do him dirty when Iowa played Ohio State. So he's not he doesn't come out of Ohio State without flaws. But I think you look at what Paris Johnson Jr. brings to the table as a pass protector, as a force in the run game for for a Tennessee Titans offense that they need that long-term answer at left tackle. Taylor Lewan is gone.
That's what I was going to say. You move on from Lewan, and then you bring in Paris Johnson, like swap, done deal.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at some of the Titans' moves in recent years at the offensive tackle position, they've kind of had some swings and a miss at offensive tackle. And I think you bring in Paris Johnson Jr., you plug him in to protect whoever your quarterback is down the line. This is if the draft fell like this, by the way, with Anthony Richardson still at 11, with the noise that's out there at the moment about the Tennessee Titans, could you see Anthony Richardson go to the Titans? Could you see Bijan Robinson go to the Titans? If the Titans really were shopping Derrick Henry, like we heard earlier on in the preseason, off-season, there's all sorts of potential. But Paris Johnson Jr. for me, consistently when I've been writing mock drafts, if Paris Johnson Jr. is there for the Titans, it's a home run pick. It's a no-brainer.
I'm picking for the Patriots at 14, and with Richardson still falling, like I'm considering it. Like if I know we're not doing trades right now, and someone would become. I mean, I feel like there's a good possibility the phone will be ringing, but without it ringing, with the noise, with them wanting it out on Mac Jones, like it's hard for me not to be thinking about it at 14. But there's a few picks to go before mine. KT, you were on the clock at number 12 with the Houston Texans.
Gotcha. But before I get to that pick, much like Oliver, I'm a college football fanatic at heart. And when I hear Paris Johnson, I automatically think of DeJuan Jones, and then I automatically think of, the biggest question mark in Columbus right now are their tackles. Who's going to be able to fill in at those tackle position when you lose the type of production that you're losing? Now to the Houston Texans. If you look at who the Houston Texans currently have at wide receiver, they have Nico Collins. He'll probably be the number one guy on the outside. They also have Noah Brown, who they got from Dallas. Robert Woods, who I look at more of a slot receiver, and then John Mechie. From what is being said, he's recovering really well, and he may even be ready for the off-season conditioning that starts in the end of this month. But I think they still need another guy. We picked up at the second pick. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, good.
Heartburn is a mother. Let me pull this back up. So we have to get a target, and that target is the Houston Texans with the 12th pick in the NFL draft select Jackson Smith Najigba from the Ohio State University.
I like it. I like it. What do you think about the tight ends? I like Brevin Jordan. I liked him coming out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he seems to be continuing to develop? I know his RAS, his relative athletic score, wasn't all that great. His 40 time wasn't all that great. But we saw last year with Isaiah Likely at a Coastal Carolina, it doesn't necessarily matter. If you can play tight end, you can play tight end. So you think he'll be an option down there in Houston?
I think he will be. I think nobody, that I know, probably outside of my dad, follows the Cowboys the way you follow the Cowboys, and we know that Houston did pick up Dalton Schultz.
Oh, right.
That pickup?
Yeah, you know what? I totally had a brain fart. I didn't even think about that. So I like it. I actually had a bathroom board bet with so the bathroom board is that's like our anytime we disagree, which we're gonna have to carry this over to On the Clock as well. Whenever we disagree with something, we throw it on the bathroom board, and then at the end of the year we go over all the bathroom board bets, and it's usually things that can be measured. If it can't be measured, we're not throwing it on the bathroom board. So I had a bet. I took Dalton Schultz over Evan Ingram. So I do think Dalton Schultz is so they bring in Noah Brown. You mentioned Noah Brown. Noah Brown is the blocking wide receiver. He'll catch some passes, but I don't think he's catching over 30 passes. He's coming in, he's going to do the dirty work. He's going to help. Dalton Schultz, on the other hand, he ain't going to do the dirty work. I think he'll catch around 70 receptions, 60 to 70 receptions this year. So yeah, Brevin Jordan's going to take a step back on the depth chart. All right.
He'll still get plenty of playing time though.
I loved him at Miami. Miami, like, I know Iowa right now and Stanford are tight end U. Like, the debate is between the two of those, but Miami, they've had a fair share of pretty good tight ends as well. All right. Oliver, you are on the clock at pick number 13 for the New York Jets.
Man, the New York Jets are I think, potentially the enigma of the 2023 NFL draft, because as we sit right now, we kind of know Aaron Rodgers coming. We kind of know he's making his way to New York. But until that's signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours, what do we know about the New York Jets and what their outlook looks like? Obviously, they're going to be a potential destination for a quarterback if that all fails. But if it doesn't, it's how best do you support Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback of the New York Jets? For me, that is the selection at the 13th overall pick of Tennessee offensive tackle Darnell Wright. For me, you look at the New York Jets and their recent history at the offensive tackle position. We talked about the Tennessee Titans and how they've kind of tried to develop bookend offensive tackles. Mekhi Becton, the jury is still very much out on Mekhi Becton as the New York Jets starting left tackle, starting offensive tackle. Seems to have trimmed down this season. He seems to have been doing some great work with some really solid top tier guys in the offensive line training domain. But I think when you've got a question mark like that at offensive tackle, and you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who he doesn't suffer fools gladly, he doesn't sit down, and he's not going to be happy spending the half of his time on his backside like Zach Wilson has done for the New York Jets. So you bring in a guy like Darnell Wright, who has got serious exposure at both bookends at the college football level as a multi-year starter in an SEC school. We talk about Paris Johnson being a built-in of a lab offensive tackle. Darnell Wright, 6'5", 333, he's stout. He's neutralized some of the best pass rushers in college football when you watch the tape over the past few seasons. Particularly, you don't face bad defenses as a whole in the SEC. You're always facing a guy, and those guys have been the likes of Will Anderson. You talked about it as the fourth overall pick with Will Anderson. This is no slouch as a pass rusher. This is a guy who is a consensus 1-2 player in this class, and Darnell Wright really had his way with Will Anderson when Tennessee played Alabama. He's highly experienced, very powerful, got some real great technique as well. Darnell Wright, you watch him, independent hands, bends at the knees, and he's a top tier athlete as well. And I feel like you bring him to New York, You've got a guy who can start as a right tackle in year one. A guy who could start as a left tackle in year one for me, but a guy who certainly could play that right tackle role early on and transition to the left tackle if Mekhi Becton, if we start the season and a couple of games in, it's like, well, actually, this just isn't going to work with Mekhi Becton. And you can transition Donnell out to left tackle. So I think he's a guy who answers a lot of questions that the New York Jets have this offseason.
Love it. I love it.
I love the pick as well.
Solid selection. Nino mentioned that Becton is close to bust status. So the Jets, they're going to bring in Rodgers. And then I also see D now asking, I missed, was Skoronski already picked? No, but I'm on the clock for the New England Patriots. And that's where I'm going. I think Bill Belichick sitting there, right? I mean, while everyone tell me this isn't true. Peter Skoronski is a top 10 talent in this class.
Agreed, 100%.
Right? So I think hands down. I think teams are overthinking it. The arm length, where can he play? I was talking to Nino earlier. He's a Patriots fan. I know you're shaking your head, Oliver. You're a Patriots fan. You got rid of Shaq Mason. You need to replace him. I think the right side of your offensive line with Riley Reif and Mike Onwenu, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He could replace one of those guys, and he's going to play very well. I read a stat, it was on The Athletic, that Skoronski allowed 0 sacks and committed 1 penalty in 480 career snaps for his AP-ranked teams. Like, come on. That screams Bill Belichick. Guy doesn't make mistakes. Sound, solid. Yes, he's a little bit undersized, but I'm not concerned about it. The production's there. If you want to move him inside, you can move him inside. You want to play him outside of tackle, you will have some options. That is where I am going at pick number 14. Oliver, you are on the clock. Pick number 15 for the Green Bay Packers.
With the Aaron Rodgers list, that's not easy to say at nearly 2 a.m. here in the UK. The Aaron Rodgers list, Green Bay Packers. There's a temptation with Anthony Richardson still on the clock. There is a serious temptation. But I do think the Packers are all in on Julian Love. It's 2 a.m. I was super high on Love as he came out of Utah State, and I think the Packers still believe in what they saw there. And I think he is going to be their quarterback for the 2023 NFL season. With this pick, the Green Bay Packers select Brian Branch, defensive back out of Alabama. You look at what the Packers like to do in their secondary. You look at how they like to use their safeties. Brian Branch is a Green Bay Packer all day long, as far as I'm concerned. You will not find a more reliable tackler in the defensive backfield than Brian Branch. This kid is technically sound. His football intelligence is off the charts. The question mark through this process for Brian Branch with the athletic testing at the NFL Combine, I think it caused a lot of analysts to kind of sit back and go, oh, I don't know about Brian Branch. Look, this kid's game isn't predicated on being an elite athlete. He's a good enough athlete with sound footballing, like high-level football intelligence. And
he's a coach on the field.
Exactly. You're getting a coach in the defensive backfield. And Brian Branch, for me, I think when we look back at this class, I think he'll be a guy who is a can't-miss talent. I really do. And I think the way the Green Bay Packers operate their secondary, I think the fit there is absolutely perfect. I don't think they miss a beat in running up to the podium and selecting Brian Branch.
I wanted to put him in New England. I wanted to replace Devin McCourty with him, but Nino told me Bill Belichick doesn't draft DBs early, so I listened to my New England scout. I didn't go that way. Solid selection. I was considering him with the Lions a little later on. Can't worry that way. So KT, you're on the clock for the Washington Commanders, and the world wants to know: is it happening?
You guys really put me under the gun with this pick. Listen, I'm 45 minutes from the nation's capital, 45 minutes from the White House. Ain't nothing but a subway ride up. So I'm thinking for the Commanders, I'm thinking cornerback. I'm thinking Porter. That's nothing but a 2-hour drive up I-95. That's nothing. I'm also thinking lineman. I was hoping Skoronski would still be there. If he was there, he would be the guy. But I know how DC thinks. If Anthony Richardson is on the board some way, somehow at this pick, and the Commanders don't
do it,
take him, yeah, it'll be crazy. So the Washington Commanders select Anthony Richardson, and him and Sam Howell will compete for the starting quarterback job.
I love it. I think these 3 picks right here, 14, 15, and 16, like the value, the possible value between Skoronski, Branch, and Richardson in these spots. Like if you're a team picking in the mid of the first round and you were able to land these 3 guys, I think it's a phenomenal place to be. I love the selection. I think and then also Washington's going to be under new ownership. You want to worry about selling tickets?
Oh yeah.
Like you bring in this cat and it's going to be and think about it. I know it's so it's not like Kirk Cousins and Robert Griffin III because they were both drafted the same year. But having a guy like Sam Howell, it worked out for you in the past. Having two. I mean,
Right.
it's fun, but like
It did.
you know,
It did. I'm
I,
laughing.
I don't I don't think it's terrible having 2 quarterbacks, have them battle it out, 2 young guys with upside. I think it's solid. I love the selection. Richardson gets to learn from Logan Thomas. Very funny.
He's crazy.
You're going to get the boot. You're going to get the moderator. We need a moderator in here to kick him out of the chat. All right. You know what, though? I said Richardson's going to go top 15. I made a bet with Jared Boomer like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, $50.
That was a phenomenal bet.
Dude, but he said he wasn't even going to go in the first round. And I said, I am so certain he's going to go in the first round. I'll even tell you it's going to be top 15. He told me I was bananas. And I would lose if he fell to 16, but I don't think there's any way he falls to 16. But in this case, for this draft, I like it. Oliver, you are on the clock for the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick number 17.
Well, my understanding that Boomer thinks Anthony Richardson's a tight end, right?
Yeah, so does Dennis.
Okay. That's $50 in your back pocket, man. With the whatever pick number we're at, 18?
17.
17? Pittsburgh Steelers select Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State. I can't think of a more Pittsburgh-esque defensive back, now that Devin Witherspoon's off the clock, a more Pittsburgh-esque defensive back than Joey Porter Jr. This kid is ferocious. He's aggressive. He's athletic. He's all over the field. He'll hit you hard. He'll jump your route. He's going to come in and pretty much instantly upgrade that Steelers cornerback room, which added some off-season additions. But a guy like Patrick Peterson, you know, he's a legend, but he's not got too much longer left playing the game at the highest level. They need a kid who's going to be a cornerback one for this program, this team. Obviously, program has slipped into college football talk slightly there. But yeah, Joey Porter Jr. and the Porter connection at Pittsburgh as well. It just makes it just the perfect pick for the Steelers, I think.
Man, that's tough because Brian Branch gone, Joey Porter gone. I am I'm a little depleted with Peter Skoronski gone. Where I was thinking of going with the Detroit Lions. I know D now, being a Lions fan, he wants a true X, a true outside guy. And he was willing in our mock drafts to trade for DK Metcalf, which is making me, I know they're different players, but he's an outside receiver. I'm considering Quentin Johnson here. Okay. But I am also considering one of my favorite corners in this class. I don't think he's the number 1 corner. I don't think he's the number 2 corner, but I think he's very close. He's on the cusp of being top 3, and that's Deonte Banks out of Maryland. I think Deonte Banks is an absolute stud. I think he is so talented that at times he looks lackadaisical with what he's doing because he's bored with his competition. I think that says more about him than it does about his opponents. Like, he is that good. He is a dude. And Detroit has missed a little bit on corners, and they could use a corner. There's a little bit of a run on corners right now, and I do think there's a little bit of a teardrop after Deonte Banks. And that's right, Nino, money in the banks. And I'm going Deonte Banks here out of Maryland for the Detroit Lions, pick number 18. And then, Oliver, you are on the clock. Pick number 19 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Let's do something wild for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They bought in Baker Mayfield, and I don't think that precludes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from adding a quarterback in the 2023 NFL Draft. I don't think having Kyle Trask on the roster precludes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from selecting a quarterback in the 2023 NFL Draft. Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee. This is a kid who is, well, we're calling him a kid for a start, is a little bit outside the box. He's one of the oldest quarterback prospects in this class. But when you look at what Hendon Hooker brings to the table as a quarterback prospect, good size, NFL size, 6'4", 218 pounds. He's got the creative mobility to allow him to succeed. It certainly sounds like the injury that he sustained last season is not going to be something that that prevents that ability that Hendon Hooker has on the football field to be creative, to escape the pocket, good short area burst. What I love about Hendon Hooker, as opposed to just a guy who wins with athleticism when he leaves the pocket, he's got great vision. You know, this is a kid who he's not just relying on speed or burst or agility to create outside the pocket. He's got great vision as a rusher. And then when you watch him throw football, I think he's got an easy, beautiful throwing motion. You can watch the ball, tight spiral. He's not always been the most accurate quarterback in the class, not always been the most productive quarterback in the class. The injury will leave a lingering question mark for teams, but if he's been cleared medically when we get to the NFL draft, which is, again, I say, it certainly sounds like it has, there is a lot to like about Hendon Hooker for a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have got very, very little certainty at the quarterback position. And it sounds like he's a kid who's gaining traction as we get closer to the NFL draft.
Man, that is interesting. Who's a better prospect coming out, Josh Freeman or Hendon Hooker?
Wow, that's a question. That's a question. Josh Freeman was a little bit before my time as an NFL draft analyst. Okay. Are you asking me whether I think Hendon Hooker busts out like Josh Freeman? Is that?
Well, I mean, but I don't think I think it has a lot to do with the situation and the coaching staff. So I like a lot of prospects, and sometimes the prospects don't pan out. But it's just interesting. They, before they had Brady, they went through their fair share of guys with talent that didn't pan out, and hopefully, while Brady was there, now they got Mike Evans still. They got Chris Godwin. They have a strong offensive line. They have leadership on defense. So hopefully they could bring in a young quarterback with upside and they could develop it and not ruin it, not spoil it. That's more so what I'm saying, because I thought Freeman was very solid coming out of college. And I think that they just fell apart and they didn't handle it properly. They didn't help him develop. So Hendon Hooker. So you played the long con, because we brought up Hendon Hooker. I don't know if it was during the show or before the show. You're like, yeah, I think you were holding this selection in your pocket, and you didn't want me or KT to take Hendon Hooker. So you were kind of sullying his name a little bit. I like your game. I'm on to you.
It's all the NFL draft is one great big game. It's one great big smoke screen. It's one great big show. Yeah. Well, you make a great point about landing spot though. You look at, if you put, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence behind the New York Jets, for example. If you put, you can go through the last so many years of the draft. If you can take the greatest collegiate prospects, the guys that look like surefire, can't miss guys, and you put them behind a bad offensive line, or you put them with bad scheme fits, or you put them with coaches that aren't able to develop the talent. You can be the most talented guy in the world coming out of college. When you get to the NFL, and it matters so much more with the quarterback than it does any other position, you are so almost dependent upon landing spot for your success going forward in your career.
Yeah. So and a lot of people, they look at things as, it's what have you done for me lately? They forget what these kids looked like in college. And they're so quick to look at what they did in the NFL and judge them based upon that, man. Like you got to look at the whole picture. You definitely got to look at the big picture. So, all right. So KT, you are on the clock. Pick 20, Seattle Seahawks. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to add to Oliver's point, something me and Nino said a lot on CFB Nation is that scheme matters. We were always evaluating the X's and O's because it matters 100%. So looking at the Seahawks, my evaluation is that they need an edge. And there's definitely some guys that can get here at edge, but I believe that the edge is sneaky one of the most deepest positions in this draft that a lot of people aren't talking about, and I feel like you can get somebody quality later on in this draft. I think another need that the Seattle Seahawks need is interior offensive lineman, and so a position that I don't think is as deep as the edge position. So I'm going to go John Michael Schmitz, interior offensive lineman, Minnesota.
Man, Kenneth Walker is going to love that. So
Yeah,
so will Gino, but and so
absolutely.
will the 12s, man. So where are you playing them? Where are you playing them?
That's the toughest part because I was examining their depth chart earlier. I'm not sure, but I feel like he's such a tweener offensive lineman. You can have him at center. He can kick out to a guard as well, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting. I'm not sure how the Seahawks are going to use him, but guy of that talent, you got to take him.
Man, and going back to the Hendon Hooker Freeman debate, Nino's in here. So this is the same person. I know Nino can't defend himself, so I'm going to talk because I know he can't defend himself. But this is the same person who's saying Jalen Hyatt and the offensive coordinator's in his bag and Jalen Hyatt's wide open. But then he's also talking about how Hooker played in the SEC and Freeman, played in the Big 12. Well, what is it? Was it Hooker who got it done, or was it the offensive coordinator that got it done? It can't be. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell me Hooker's a dude with elite stats, but then also say Jalen Hyatt was schemed open and the offensive coordinator made it happen.
It was all inclusive. Alex Golesh did a great job, but Tennessee is still going to be able to run a similar system this year, even with Golesh gone. It's all inclusive.
Right.
Yes, he still had to run routes and catch the ball. I don't
care give Josh Freeman Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman in that offense.
Now we're talking. Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, like I think that
it's throwing the ball, bro. Nino tried to blow the whistle earlier. Nino's PC is coming tomorrow, and the college football world is in trouble because this man has been without a computer for 5 days.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm nervous, man. He gonna come out crazy, man.
Right, but so he's saying Hooker went for 31 TDs, but you're saying the scheme is huge to get this guy. So the scheme has something to do with it. The scheme and the game plan. Like if it affects the receivers, it also affects the quarterback. And if the scheme was great and the quarterback looked great, that's something you need to consider. But this is not a Hendon Hooker show. This is an NFL draft show. We picked 11 through 20. I'm going to recap these selections. Tennessee Titans started off with Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle, Ohio State. Houston Texans, Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver, Ohio State. New York Jets selected Darnell Wright, offensive tackle, Tennessee. And here was the value selections right here, 3 in a row. New England Patriots with Peter Skoronski, offensive lineman, Northwestern. Green Bay Packers, Brian Branch, DB out of Alabama. Washington Commanders, Anthony Richardson, quarterback, Florida. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers took Joey Porter, match made in heaven right there, cornerback, Penn State. Detroit Lions took Deontay Banks, quarterback out of Maryland. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Hendon Hooker, quarterback, Tennessee. And then the last selection of this episode, the Seattle Seahawks, John Michael Schmitz, interior offensive line, to be determined, out of Minnesota. So, KT, what are your thoughts on these selections here?
I feel like the top 10 picks for most people are kind of no-brainers. You kind of have an idea of what direction people are going to go with. We definitely had some surprises in our top 10 picks, but I thought that these 11 through 20, I thought these selections were better than the top 10.
I think that these GMs would be very excited. If the draft, like the first round and the second round, are split up by a day. If the first 10 picks and then the next 10 picks were split up by a day, I'm sure a lot of these GMs would be making phone calls overnight trying to move up because there's a lot of value in these 10 picks. Oliver, what are your opinions?
Yeah, KT mentioned the depth of the edge class. There's still an absolute ton of edge guys like kicking around that could have gone within these 10 picks that we've done tonight. You look at guys like Nolan Smith, whose combine performance really shot him up draft boards. Miles Murphy, the same. He's just coming off an individual pro day that has propelled him back into the early first round conversation. There's still a lot of edge guys, just a lot of cornerbacks as well. This class is ridiculously deep at cornerback. So, Anthony Richardson and Hendon Hooker going between 11 and 20, I think was. I'd be intrigued and excited and interested if that turns out to be the case in 3 weeks' time.
This has been a lot of fun. Next week is going to be a little more like tense for me, KT, because KT's Bills are going to be on the clock. My Cowboys are going to be on the. So it's been all fun and game until our teams. KT, you have. You know what? No, don't show your hand. All right. I'm not going to show my hand. But I think we know each other well enough. We can kind of get an idea of where we are leaning. But Oliver, man, we really appreciate you coming on. It has been a lot of fun. 2:00 in the morning for you. You're up. you're getting this done, and we really appreciate your time, man.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Always have a good time with you guys.
Yeah. KT, man, you are on the road very soon. You're starting this journey, going to these spring games. I know you were super excited. You got like, what should the listeners, I know they need to go. You need to go subscribe to the CFB Nation. You need to stay locked in to all the college football content that is coming, because we are only a few months away. Like, it is April, man. Like spring, I mean, this is college football season, spring games. This is absolutely huge. But what does everyone who isn't subscribed, like, what do they need to subscribe for? What are they going to see?
What they are missing are unbiased opinions. They are missing people who truly care about the sport of college football. A lot of us, I think probably Boomer and maybe Dina are the only ones that have like hardcore teams. The rest of us, we just love the sport. We love to follow the storylines, and you have a bunch of hardworking people under one umbrella. Hey, hook 'em.
Don't show Boomer.
Hook 'em. But yeah, like, so with the Sooners Shakedown, if you're a fan, you somewhere around Norman, Boomer delivers every week. Same thing with D now on the Hawks Nest podcast. It's just so much talent under one umbrella. We're all hardworking, and then the great thing, like you said earlier, Coach, we all live in different places, so we're going to be traveling not only for the spring, we're going to be traveling in season as well. So definitely when Oliver comes over to the States, man, wherever you land, let us know. Somebody is nearby, and we can get you into a game.
I want to link up for a Penn State game this year. Like I think that would probably be like somewhere, Nino can meet up with me. We'll ride out to Penn State. How far you think that is from where you live?
That Penn State is a short drive. Pennsylvania, I-95, man, maybe 3 hours for me, 3 or 4 hours.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Anything under 9 hours, I'm game.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll make it happen. All you listening at home, I took my swipes at Nino because he's not on air. He can't defend himself. He will be back next week. So
we gotta take our punches now.
Yeah, exactly. But you co-host with him. Yeah, you got to get it in, man, because this dude, he brings the heat. He will be back next week. We are looking forward to that. Everybody
ain't popping out of the middle of his forehead.
Oh my goodness. But it's great, dude. He is one of the most passionate people I know, man. He keeps me on my toes. It is absolutely incredible. But again, we reached 1,000 subs today, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's been 3 years in the making. It's great feeling. Onward and upward. We're not like, we don't just stop. Like I'm looking back on it. It's in my rearview mirror. Let's keep going. Let's keep creating content. If you want to join us in our mock draft challenge, reach out to us, toiletsandtitles@gmail.com. Check out our Twitter @toiletsandtitles or @CoachSheps. You will see all the details on how you can get in there. Again, and it is free. You'll have a chance to win up to $500 and compete. And then we're going to be doing an NFL draft live stream. We got tons of stuff in the work. And then we'll be finishing this mock draft next week, Thursday night, same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So we will catch you all later on. Now, where is the outro?
Hey.